Hello, hello. Welcome to the Sideline Speaks. Yes, it's our time right now, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Media Network. I am your host, Brittany Jones, alongside my two co hosts, Jason Collins and Kevin Walker. What's going on, J and K Walk?
All is well. All is well. Looking forward to a great show. Great one for you guys tonight.
Yeah, everything's good. Looking forward to a good show. A lot of good stuff to talk about. Hopefully, we have time to get into all of it.
All right, guys. So I was going to talk about a couple things first, but since I guess they want to try to clown me because my Eagles lost to the Redskins, although Jay also lost to the Packers, Jay's Cowgirls lost to the Packers, but he want to talk so much crap. So let's just get with it. I didn't have this plan, but let's get with it. So most of us seen the primetime game last night on Monday night where the Eagles did not play well at all, but they got beat by Washington. I think they scored the last second touchdown. So what was the score? 31-21 or something like that, right? Washington Redskins won, um, making causing the Eagles' undefeated season to go under the drain, in the hole. It's gone. So, Jay, I'm gonna come to you since you want to be the so-called hater of the crew. Go ahead, tell me what you got.
No, Britt, I'm not hating at all. Look, I don't think anyone was expecting, Philadelphia to go undefeated. So, I mean,
Mm,
we expected them to lose some games throughout the season. I think one of the things that concerned me a little bit, especially if you're an Eagles fan, is the way that Washington was able to control the game. I
mhm.
think they rushed the ball 49 times. They doubled the Eagles in time of possession, and they were able to force four turnovers. I mean, obviously, anytime you do that, you have a really good chance to win the game. So, I still think Philadelphia is a really, really good team. Nobody's jumping off the bandwagon after one loss, but I do think, especially with Jordan Davis out, Philly has to be careful about their run defense because when you're relying so much on one guy to be your run stopper, I mean, this is the NFL. And as we get late into the season, we know how injuries pop up. So that would be the only concerning thing, that if teams feel like, you know what, we can run the ball down their throat and control the game, that would be a bit of a concern. But look, Washington did everything right. They forced turnovers. They should have won the game. It's just one loss for Philly. I don't think there's any need to push the panic button or anything like that. But the turnovers would be a bit of a concern. And then also, Jalen Hurts, as good as he's been all year, he's been great, obviously. But I still think for some people, there's a question out there that if the game is on the line, if Jalen Hurts has to lead a comeback, does he have that in his arsenal right now as a young quarterback where he can put the team on his back and his arm can lead them to a victory? So I think for some people that's still a question. But look, it's just one loss. No need to panic in Philly. Washington played great. They deserved to win last night.
Yeah, so I'm gonna respond to that. I think he can. I think he can. If you look at that game, it wasn't a Jalen Hurts problem, in my opinion. It was a his playmakers problem. You know, he threw a nice deep route trying to come back to win the game in the fourth quarter. Threw a deep pass to Quez Watkins. Remember that incredible catch? Got up. You had to understand the situation you're in. You had to understand that the defender is right behind you, and the
Yes.
defender swung down and he caught it, got up, and then defenders swung at the ball and stripped the ball out of his hands. So that's a huge loss. The other one, what was the other? Dallas Goddard. It's actually the series prior to that. Regardless if they called the face mask or not, regardless, you still have to hang on to that football. So, and I have to give credit to Washington. They were swiping at the ball. So this is the receiver's problem, tight end's problem for not holding on to that football. The early interception, that was a tight one. Now it hit AJ Brown in his hands, and he should have absolutely called it. He allowed that defender to grab and basically take that ball away. And then I think the last fumble was the very last, the last 4 seconds of the game where you're just trying to make something happen. So that is what it is. Overall, I think Jalen, and he's the leader of the team, so he's going to take responsibility, which is why I respect him so much. But overall, the the role players in this game have to do better. The defense has to do better. But I think this is what you call a good loss. and I know people are like, what the heck is a good loss? They had to get punched in the mouth a little bit. You were a little bit too high, riding a little bit too high there. Everything is going perfect. At least it seems that way. But to me, I feel like they didn't understand what their true weakness was because they were always winning. And some teams go through that. Regardless of how humble the team is, it's 53 players on the team. Not everybody's going to act like Jalen Hurts. So this was a good loss. They got punched in the mouth and they needed it. So now they can really work on what they need to work on, which is that run defense. And I have a problem with, I've been saying this all year, defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, you have to put pressure on these quarterbacks, especially the young quarterbacks. He does not like to blitz. He does not like to bring that extra man, but he has to understand if your forefront is not getting there, you have to bring that help because you allow Tyler Heineke to sit back in that pocket and kill you, not just with their run offense. And actually they only average about 3 yards per carry, I believe. But they killed you a lot on third down. I think they were in the 80% range on third down, I believe. It's high 70s, 80%, which is ridiculous. It's a good punch in the mouth. Now you go back in the drawing board, go back to the locker room, fix things in practice, and you come back and do what you need to do against the Indianapolis Colts. But K-Walk, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't know what else left is to be said, to be honest with you. But I do believe in this case, I do believe the Philadelphia Eagles are playing with house money. I do believe they kind of played around with this. I think something what Jay alluded to as far as seeing if they can win with Jalen Hurts' arm, because they got away from their identity. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. You could be a diehard Eagle fan. You could be a diehard Eagle hater. They got away from their identity. No, there was no Miles Sanders. There was no Jalen Hurts running the ball. There was no Boston Scott running the ball. There was no play action off of that. I think they came in with that mentality, say, listen, we're playing with house money. We're 8-0. We're playing the Commanders. I'm not saying that, they disrespected or they underestimated the Commanders, but I think they kind of got away from who they, they definitely got away from who they are. And that's running that ball. And Miles Sanders didn't do what he's generally does. Or Jalen Hurts, and then that ultimately cost him. And if you look at the score, obviously the score doesn't justify the game because, like you mentioned, that last touchdown, you could take that out of there. But the score, when you give up more points than you score, that's obviously going to be magnified. But I think they could have scored a lot more points if they would have just been true to themselves and ran that ball and been consistent with that. Stay true to that. I don't know why they got away from it. They did not want to. It's like they didn't. Their game plan was not to run the ball at all last night. I don't know what it was. You can ask your coach about that. You ask Jalen Hurts about that. He's going to put it on himself, of course, because that's the type of player that he is, meaning Jalen Hurts. The defense was on the field a lot longer because of the fact of the matter is they weren't true to themselves. I can't emphasize that enough. They weren't true to themselves. Jay, you mentioned the time of possession. Double that. Please double that as well. Then you look at the plays and the rushing yards. The Eagles only rushed the ball 94 yards. For 94 yards as a team. With Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, and Boston Scott, that's unheard of. So it is basically, to me, they got away from who they are, and we'll see this week against. I think they got the Colts this week, I believe, and we'll see what they do, going forward there. But they have to stay true to themselves in order to continue to be successful.
Yeah, and just real quick, that's a great point, K-Walk, because I think they only rushed the ball 4 times in the whole first half. That's not a formula for the Eagles to win. And then the other thing too, like I know the Commanders, when you look at their record, what were they, like 5-6 coming in, something like that? I don't know, but they're not a bad football team, especially 4-5, especially on defense. I mean, they have a good defensive front, so I think they deserve some credit too for the way that they played. They're probably a little bit better on paper than their record actually shows. So the combination of all those things just wasn't the right recipe for Philly last night.
Right.
Yeah, and I think they play better with Tyler Heineke. I don't think they believe in Carson Wentz as much. I think behind Tyler Heineke, those receivers,
I agree.
The playmakers just want to play better. The defense is getting healthy. So I have to give all credit to Washington. I will say it's on the Eagles. This is the Eagles' loss because the Commanders. Still saying Redskins. The Commanders, they tried to give it back to you. They only scored 3 points, subtracting that touchdown at the very end. They only scored 3 points in the second half. Yeah. So they tried to give it back to you, but those turnovers started to add up. But you're right, K-Walk. They got away from it. And I know this is something Philadelphia fans, the media out here, they constantly talk about our identity. Our identity first is a run first team.
Yes.
Run the ball, and then we could throw. We see Jalen Hurts has improved his throwing, but we are so much stronger when we run that football, regardless of what line we're going up against. So, but we're going to say, and hopefully our run defense gets better because you got what's his name, Jonathan Taylor coming up.
Yep.
You got Jonathan Taylor, and then I think you got Saquon Barkley, and then you're going to have Derrick Henry. So it gets no easier in the run defense. No. So they got to get it together. I think they will. This was not their normal type of game, but these games happen. It's called Any Given Sunday or Monday for a reason. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, we got to head into our next topic here. And this is the one I've been wanting to get to big time. Oh, my goodness. And no, Jay, it is not your Cowboys. Not yet. It's the Minnesota Vikings. Oh, my goodness. The Minnesota Vikings beat the Buffalo Bills 33-30 in overtime. The Bills had four total turnovers with a crucial fumble towards the end of the fourth quarter, which the Vikings were able to recover in the end zone prior to the Bills tying the game with the field goal in order to push it into overtime. What were your thoughts on this game? K-Walk, I'm going to come to you first on this one.
Yeah, obviously what everyone's mentioning and is the game of the year for up to this point. I mean, it's kind of reminiscing of the Bills and the Chiefs last year or the year before. And you look at these two teams, and a lot of people were going in and like wondering, is Minnesota really, are they as good as their record says they are? 7-1 going into that game. A lot of people had question marks about them. Bills were playing at home. There was a lot of question marks around Josh Allen and that elbow injury. But he came out and he showed that he was able to do it. He's a trooper. He's a ball player, man. He's a gamer. But I thought that he put too much on himself in that game. I don't think he spreaded that ball around enough in order for them to win. But he did exactly. They had the game won. All they had to do was just snap it. Center quarterback exchange, dive for to get out of the end zone, and that's the game. But he says the game of inches, Britt. You said it or just a moment ago. It's any given Sunday, any given Monday, wherever the case may be. But excellent game, and I think Minnesota Vikings have shown a lot of people that they are the real deal. They are the real deal. Kirk Cousins was really up and down in that game. It's kind of like you go, oh, that's the Kirk Cousins I know. Ah, wow, what a throw, Kirk Cousins. That's the Kirk Cousins. There you go. You go back. It was like so up and down with both teams. And JJ Dynamite, Justin Jefferson, one of the best catches I've seen in a long time. Outstanding ball player, man. I mean, just what a game. What a game for the foremost. But I think for the most part, I think that Vikings are putting people on notice. And now they go into Orchard Park. They beat the Bills in the fashion that they did. So, Minnesota Vikings have put the rest of the NFC on notice, including your Philadelphia Eagles.
Excuse me?
I'm saying your Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, sure, Philadelphia. I'm still saying the Philadelphia Eagles are the team to beat, even though they lost last night. They're still the team to beat. I'm just saying.
I'm like, we got to go back to week 2. I know it's week 2. That's in the past, but still. But I will say this. No. The Vikings did their thing, especially Justin Jefferson. I don't know what the Bills were thinking. I know it was a couple incredible catches that Justin Jefferson made, but a couple times he was running wide open, very wide open. You always have to have somebody on him. I would rather have Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson, I guess Jalen Reagor now, and whoever else is on that offense try to beat you. But you cannot allow Justin Jefferson to beat you. But again, he has about 2 or 3 incredible catches where he was double teamed. So that you just got to give him. That's a talented player. That's probably one of the best receivers, maybe the best right now, because I don't know where Devontae Adams is. But no, it was an incredible game. And I do agree with you, K-Walk. I think Josh Allen, he was just trying to do too much. Just have to, I don't know how to say this, but what you do is you throw the ball to where the defense is given to you. He tried to play too much hero ball, I thought. Too much hero ball instead of just making a simple play. Because even that last interception in overtime, he had another player wide open, but he tried to force it into the end zone, and you didn't need to do that. And that's when it got picked off by Patrick Peterson. So again, any given Sunday, things happen. I still think in my mind, the Bills are the better team, but the Vikings played lights out, and you have to give it to them. I'm not as high up on Kirk Cousins as a lot of people are out here are, but I have to give it to him. He played an incredible game because there were a lot of times, even in this game, he just throws it up. But luckily, you had Justin Jefferson come down and catch that ball. Any other receiver, they may not come down and catch that football. But Jay, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys said it all. I sat up here the last couple of weeks when the question was asked about, do you believe in the Vikings? And for me, it was a no. That has now turned into a yes. I think what I saw on Sunday against what I think is probably the best team in the NFL, the Buffalo Bills, the Vikings earned my respect. And even late in that game, where they had every reason to lose the game, a couple calls didn't go their way, and then they don't score down close to the goal line. There were a lot of reasons for them to lose, but for them to just keep fighting, I thought that was a really impressive win. And to your point about Josh Allen, I think that's one of the curses of guys who are supremely talented, that they think they can do it all. And sometimes they play a little bit too much outside the system. And I think we saw some of that with Josh Allen on Sunday. And then the other thing, too, is I think Buffalo, they got to do a better job protecting him. We're starting to see some of the injuries pop up. And in some ways, he just plays a little bit too reckless for me. Like when you're the franchise, you have to kind of protect yourself because that team is going to go as you go. And I think they really need to rein Josh Allen in a little bit. He's just a little bit too reckless for me when he leaves the pocket. I know he's 240 pounds and can run people over and all that kind of stuff. I just don't think that's a great formula for longevity. So Buffalo's still a really good team, but the Vikings absolutely earned my respect on Sunday.
Sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys. So we're going to head into our next topic. But before we do that, for those who are watching, please subscribe to our channel. Please share our channel. I know in a few minutes or so, probably about another 10 to 15 minutes, we are going to have a special guest, former NFL, I guess, former Cincinnati Bengals head coach, Mr. Marvin. Coach Marvin Lewis. He will be on our show within the next 10 to 15 minutes. So make sure you stay and check that out. And share. Come on, I'm talking to y'all. You guys see me pointing to you right there. You watching. Go share it. Go subscribe because he's going to be here on our show. All right, guys. But now we got to talk about Jay's Cowboys. All right, Jay, you ready for this?
I'm ready. Any given Sunday, right? Isn't that what we've been saying the whole show? So I'm hoping that grace extends to my Cowboys as well.
So America's game, it was America's game of the week, and it was between the Green Bay Packers versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Packers were able to pull out the victory over the Cowboys 31-28. The Packers receivers finally decided to, hey, I'm going to catch this football today. And you know what? Aaron Rodgers finally decided to say, hey, I'm going to make some decent decisions today. But what were your thoughts on this game? And do you think Dak is the quarterback to take this team to the Super Bowl? K-Walk, I'm going to come to you first on this one.
I'm gonna answer your first question. Your last question first. I don't know why everybody puts the pressure on Dak and makes Dak the scapegoat. I mean, when they're winning, no one says anything about Dak. No one says anything about Dak. As soon as they lose, it's Dak. It's Dak. It's Dak. I'm not a Dak guy. Keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. I'm far from a Dak guy. But there were so many other things that took place in that game that caused them to lose that game. I mean, there was self-inflicted wounds. I mean, Mike McCarthy going for it on that fourth down. I'm yelling at the TV. I'm not. You would think I was a Cowboy fan when I said, Mike McCarthy, what are you doing? Don't do this, Mike. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I kept saying it, and then he did it. And then he has a nerve to throw down his headset. Like, Mike, that's your call, bro. That's your call. Why do you get mad at it? So, but anyway, as far as the Packers go and Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers is back, and Aaron Rodgers told us last week, listen, I'm still the two-time defending MVP. I'm still the two-time MVP. And he's got that young kid, man, that I've been high on for a long time, and Christian Watson. I know he's been dealing with a lot of injury plague. Even he had an injury just running a route down, just running off the defender, and he gets kicked in the leg, and he almost had to leave the game for that. But he came back, and like you mentioned, Britt, he dropped a lot of balls, especially in the first game of the season. He dropped an easy go route, and that's their guy. That's their guy who they expect to stretch the field. He had not one and not two. He had 3 touchdowns in that game. So that was a coming out party for him. And Aaron Rodgers, we saw a different type of Aaron Rodgers. So we know who his go-to guy is, providing that he can stay healthy, and Christian Watson. But I put that more so on the Dallas not just shooting themselves in the foot, and then Aaron Rodgers and those guys just took advantage of it. So I think that was so much Dallas losing the game as it was Green Bay winning the game, in my opinion. And I put that on Mike McCarthy for sure. I'm putting that loss on Mike McCarthy for sure.
I think the story of this game, not only Christian Watson, 3 touchdowns, 4 receptions, 107 yards, but the big Achilles heel with the Dallas defense is the rushing attack, right? I know we just spoke about this when it came to the Eagles. Aaron Jones had 24 carries for 138 yards and one touchdown. That's crazy. Over 200 rushing yards as a team. And then not only that, penalties. Penalties, once again, it's killing the Dallas Cowboys. I think they had 9 penalties for 83 yards. And then Dak had, I believe, 2 interceptions. Look, the Packers came out to play today. They came out and they showed up today because we don't know. They was missing the action all season long. I don't know what was going on. But it looks like maybe they could be getting things started going. Maybe this is somewhat of a rivalry to them. So they wanted to really up their playing. But I don't know what to say. I'm not trying to talk bad about the Cowboys. But as far as Dak, not today. I'm trying to keep it cool today. They already give me a headache. I'm trying to keep it cool today. All right?
Brett, let me ask you: Is that because your Eagles? Is that because your Eagles lost last night?
Absolutely not. Because I think losing to the Packers is worse right now.
Oh wow!
Remember, we only got 1. They got 3, so we're good. But as far as the question of do I think Dak will be I don't know because I just feel like his decision making at times. I'm not a big fan of Mike McCarthy, and I said it from the beginning. If Sean Payton decides to become the head coach, this is a different team. This is a much scarier team in my mind. They already have their defensive coordinator. I don't trust Mike McCarthy. But sometimes I look at Dak Prescott, and it's just certain throws that he makes. It's like, I don't know if he's throwing off the wrong foot, but it was a couple receivers that were wide open. He just threw it short or right into the ground. That doesn't help the situation. But like we said, any given Sunday, the Packers got them this Sunday. But I still think there's so much potential for this Cowgirls team. Oh, I'm sorry. There goes my little shot there for the Cowboys team. But anyway, Jay, this is your team. You talk about them.
No, look, I want to give the Packers credit. K-Walk, you've been on Watson for as long as I can remember. And then on Sunday, I was saying, oh, this is what K-Walk was talking about. This is the excitement that K-Walk was telling me about this kid. So he definitely showed up, and you give the Packers credit. But to me, this loss is on Mike McCarthy. That's the one thing I was concerned about with the Dallas Cowboys. Because when you look at it, penalties, as you guys mentioned, to me, that's coaching. You can coach penalties out of your football team. When I was at Penn State, we were always one of the least penalized team in all of college football because it was coached out of us. It was just something that we were not going to do. I don't think Mike McCarthy coaches that out of his players. And then K-Walk, you mentioned it, that decision to go for it on 4th down instead of kicking the field goal. It boggles my mind. This is the NFL.
Yes.
If you don't have a kicker that can kick a 50-plus yard field goal in today's NFL, if you don't trust your kicker to do that, then you got the wrong guy on the roster. I see kickers all the time kicking that 51, 52-yard field goal with no problem. So why he would not kick that, I just don't understand it. So I agree with you, K-Walk. To me, that loss is squarely on the decision-making of Mike McCarthy in game and his inability year after year after year to coach the penalties out of this football team. It's the same thing that bit him last year in the playoffs, a lack of discipline, and it showed up again on Sunday. As far as that goes, Look, I think Dak can lead. If Jalen Hurts can lead a team to a Super Bowl, then Dak can.
I kind of trying to
There's a
with the
slew of
shots.
quarterbacks throughout the NFL, right? That I think Dak is on par with. So if they can do it, I don't think there's any question that he can do it. And like you said earlier, K Walk, I don't put this loss on Dak. To me, this one's on that guy walking up and down the sideline, Mike
Sure.
McCarthy.
If you say so, Jay, if you say so. He ain't done it since he's been with the Cowboys, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, all right, guys, remember to stay tuned. We're supposed to have former head coach Marvin Lewis on, but prior to that, we have a couple more. And K Walk, we're going to get to your topic. So it is now at what, week 10, I believe, where we just went through. So I need to know, what are your top 5 receivers
Oh.
after week 10? K Walk, I'm gonna come to you first on this one.
Okay. All right. Well, I threw me off. I'm like, my topic. What's my topic? But no, I'm good to go. I'm good to go. All right, my number 5 guy here, man. I mean, he had a subpar. I mean, I don't yeah, subpar game against the Browns. But being that he's been so consistent and he's leading the league in receptions, that's Tyreek Hill. He had 5 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown against the win against the Browns. So he's my number 5 receiver after week 10. Number 4, rough one. He may be out for a little while, but he had 3 catches for -1 yard. And I'm talking about Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, he's second in the league in catches right now, but I still put him in the top 5 just because of everything he's accomplished up to this point. Number 3, you mentioned this earlier, Britt, him, and that's Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams had another solid performance, and that's 9 catches, 126 yards, and a touchdown against the Colts. He's just overshadowed by the Raiders and their success or lack thereof right now. So number 3 is Devontae Adams. Number 2, I'm gonna go with Stephon Diggs, man. Stephon Diggs, he stepped his game up in that game we mentioned earlier against the Vikings. He had 12 catches, 128 yards, and he didn't have a touchdown, but his catches were big. And number 1, I'm going with JJ Dynamite, and that's Justin Jefferson, man. Justin Jefferson. 10 catches, 193 yards, and a touchdown. We mentioned that big time catch. I think it was probably the catch of the year, in my opinion. It's up there because I've seen some doozies this year, but it's up there. So again, 5 Tyreek Hill, 4 Cooper Kupp, 3 Devontae Adams, 2 Stephon Diggs, and number 1 Justin Jefferson.
Man, I wonder how that DB feels when he know he could have just slapped that ball out of Justin Jefferson's hand. You better slap it out of his hand. Don't try to go for it, because he Randy Moss the mess out of you. But Jay, your top 5.
Yeah, mine are pretty similar to K Walk.
Inside joke.
That's inside joke, ladies and gentlemen. But no, I have Cooper Kupp. I got Cooper Kupp at 5, K Walk. And I sort of did this sort of as a longevity thing over the course of the year. So I got Cooper Kupp at 5. But I put Jalen Waddle at number 4. I felt like, the combination of Tyreek Hill and Waddle in Miami has been really dynamic. So I've got Waddle at 4. I put Stephon Diggs at 3, just, the production that he's had in Buffalo. At 2, I went with Tyreek Hill. Okay, Walk, I believe you had him at number 5. But again, I believe that combination of Hill and Waddle, 2 of the best duos in all of the NFL. And then, like you, K Walk, Justin Jefferson, he was unguardable on Sunday. It didn't matter. He was unguardable. So right now, he's sitting at that number 1 spot for me.
For me, I did it more over the course of the year as well. Just not just this past week. Because for me, if I would have just did it for week 10, Justin Jefferson absolutely number 1 this week. But for me, number 5, he dropped significantly. And I was going to pick Cooper Kupp, but I decided to keep him there, AJ Brown, because of the huge difference that he makes to this Philadelphia Eagles offense. He really does open up the field for everybody else. Without him, I don't think the Eagles would be 8-1 at all. So he's number 5. Number 4, Jalen Waddle. That Miami offense is super explosive, super fast. And between him and Tyreek Hill, they are very, very unguardable. Number 3, I'm going to switch it up because of this week. I'm going to change it. I'm going to put Stephon Diggs. Stefan Diggs had an incredible game, an incredible year. And he's been very consistent, someone that the Bills have been able to depend on week after week. Number 2, I put JJ, Justin Jefferson. He is a monster. Oh my goodness. I'm scared to see what he's going to look like in the next couple years. By far, to me, the number 1 overall receiver. But number 1, because I decided to go over the course of the entire year, I had to stick with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is something special. And he said, it don't matter which team I'm on, you cannot guard me. No ifs, ands, or but about it. So that is my top 5. Any arguments or debates, fellas?
No, I think you're good. I think you're good. And it looks like Coach just showed up, so that's perfect timing.
Yes.
All right, awesome. All right, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to head into our break, and then when we come back, we're going to have our special guest, former NFL head coach Marvin Lewis. So we'll be right back. You guys are listening to The Sideline Speaks with myself, Brittany Jones, alongside Jason Collins and Kevin Walker, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Media Network.
CampLyman.com is an opportunity for my big boys to come get some work. Let's put it all together. We built from the ground up. You know, our cliche is it all starts up front. Once again, start, stance, hand placement, hand separation, get-offs, counter moves, a little bit of everything. Polish up those skills before your middle school or high school season began. Just come work on your craft. Once again, CampLyman.com.
You're inside Never Had It So Good Sports Radio with Princess Cooper, Tim Moore, David the Duck Riley, Jason Collins, Shoshana Cook, Brittany Jones, Travis McGee, Eric Scott, and Kevin Walker. We make it easy to talk sports.
All right, welcome back to The Sideline Speaks. Brittany Jones, Kevin Walker, and Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. And when I tell you that we're thrilled to have our next guest, I mean, we are just so excited. We've got Coach Marvin Lewis here with us. Coach, thank you for taking the time to join us tonight.
Yes, sir.
All right, it's good to see everybody there. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Coach, I always like to kind of start at the beginning, you know, when we have a guest on, because everybody's football journey is a little bit different. So for you, what kind of got you interested in football? How did it start for you? And then how did you know you wanted to be a football coach?
Well, literally, Jason, I don't know, as far as I can remember, that's literally probably all I really wanted to do. And I know when I came to the realization of that, probably during my 3rd year of college or so, and then basically set all my sights on that. And that's what I wanted to do. It was important to me. You know, I just always had a love for the game of football. I think I was fortunate at a young age that I had people that coached me when I started playing in midget football and then later on in high school and so forth. That were good men, and you know, they taught you the right way. They didn't curse. It was just different, and I learned the right way, the right thing, and then went on to college and so forth, and literally through that, that's what I wanted to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Coach, you know, just kind of looking over your resume, you know, obviously as a Bengals head coach, but your time with the Ravens and even, you know, on those Steelers staffs. You coached a ton of really great players. I mean, obviously everyone in the NFL, and I think that gets lost on people sometime. If you're in the NFL, you are a great football player. But there are some things that even the elite kind of separate themselves from the pack. And you coach some of those guys in your career. Is there a common thread between like the best of the best that you see? Is it their work ethic, competitiveness? Is there some common thread that sort of separates the elite from the really great players in the NFL?
Yeah, I think 100%. I think I think the one thing you didn't mention is they're the smartest.
Yeah,
you know, they have great work ethic. They have extreme, generally, athleticism, but they're smart. They can retain, they can change, they can adjust, and they have that inner drive.
Yeah.
And you're right. I've been found a number of Hall of Fame guys who've made it to the Hall of Fame now, and I would say they all have that intrinsic value inside them that way, and they're so doggone smart. People don't give football players enough credit for how smart you got to be to be a great player and achieve high level. You have to be smart because, we change week to week. We change quarter to quarter, series to series at times.
Yes, sir.
And you got to be able to adjust, whether it's offense, defense, special teams. So you got to be able to adjust during the flow of the game, flow of the week, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. And this will be my last one. Then K-Walk, take it from here. But Coach, that Ravens defense of 2000, when people talk about the best defenses ever, it's either that one or that 85 Bears defense that always comes up. What made that defense special, and what are some of your memories maybe from that really special year with the Ravens?
I think, again, it goes back to those things we were just talking about. They had such an awareness of what the opponent did. As we unfolded the week beginning on Wednesday morning, by the end of the week, I mean, I could have dropped dead on that doggone sideline. Those guys could have called the game. And, because they knew what we were going to do. They knew the opponent inside and out. I literally would try to flip a play over and run it to the left if they had, and Saragusa or one of them, Sam Adams, would stand up in the middle of the play and say, "What are you doing, Marvin? You can't do that. They don't do that."
Right.
Oh, but they can't. So just get in your stance.
Right.
And then they were driven. They were driven by Rod. They were driven by Ray. And we had a number of leaders within that group that were great pros. And they were driven to be the very, very best.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead, K-Walk.
All right, great stuff, Coach. Thank you so much again for joining us. We truly
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. You mentioned Ray Lewis. Every time you mentioned, I hear that name, I rub my chest because I played against him, and one of the hardest hits, probably the hardest hits I ever taken, was from him when he played in Miami when I was at Temple. But just real quick, Coach, I remember you recruiting us when we were at Center Menson. Coach Duck Riley was the head coach there. I remember you were at every single game. You were on me. You were in my living room, all that stuff, Coach. I remember that, and I want to thank you for showing the love to me at that time, Coach. But real quick, I just want to ask you. I know you started with the University of Pittsburgh. You were linebackers coach there when you were recruiting us. Then you ultimately became the linebacker coach at the Steelers, then obviously the Ravens DC, and then the head coach at the Bengals. What is it about the AFC North that kept you there? Was it something that you wanted to be there, or is this so happened the course fell where they did?
It kind of just fell where it did, but I was stuck in that 4-hour radius of home for a long time. After going to college at Idaho State and then coaching at Long Beach, New Mexico, and then coming back to coach like when I met y'all at the University of Pittsburgh. Yeah. And then later on, Steelers, Ravens, the year in Washington, and then Cincinnati. So I was in that 4-hour radius. So I was blessed. But I learned a lot. I learned my time in Pittsburgh with Bill Cowher, and then later with Brian and so forth, even Coach Marchibroda. But I learned about tough football, that AFC North and the old AFC Central as it used to be when Tennessee and Jacksonville, when there was 6 of them in there. Yeah. And they were big backs, big receivers, and you had to put a defense together that could match that. And, and that's what you tried to do.
Awesome stuff, Coach. Awesome. And I know you're at Arizona. You're an advisor there at Arizona State. Now, I just want to ask you, with Coach Herm, as far as I'm concerned, and I think I think everyone else on here as well, was surprised to see Coach Herm being let go or, no longer there. But what are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you can, how much you could touch on that, and but your thoughts and opinions on Coach Herm no longer being there.
Well, I see Brittany's got that Eagles banner in the background.
Absolutely.
Fly, Eagles, fly. But no, he, I've been blessed. He's a great friend. We've been friends for a long time. Ray Anderson, the athletic director, represented both of us. When Ray came here and then later hired Herm, and they said, hey, whenever my daughter was a freshman here in '03, so she's basically never left Arizona. And so we have 3 grandsons that they're 12 minutes away.
Nice.
And just make me smile.
Nice.
Every time I get a chance to go by there, or they come to our house, or whatever we're doing. So, but it was been a tough year for Coach, for Herm. It's a tough decision on Ray, being as friends as they were as well. And but sometimes this happens in this doggone sport and this business.
Yeah.
They say, bro, ain't but 2 kinds of coaches: those that have been and those that will be.
That's right.
Hey, and that's kind of a great segue for me too, Coach, because my next question and my last, but as well, is Jeff Saturday, the coach. Obviously let go Frank Reich, and then Jeff Saturday, who was an analyst at ESPN, out of nowhere became the head coach there. What do you say about that? I know there's a lot of rumblings around that certain people, a lot of coaches got passed over, not just from the outside, but a lot of from the inside as well. But your thoughts and opinions on that?
Yeah, I think first off, you're right. There's some people inside the building they got passed over, and I'm sure there's reasoning by Jim Irsay for that, but because a lot of times, maybe in his mind, let's see what happens. I don't know what quiet conversations they were having prior to,
right?
It might have been a little pillow talk or something. I don't know. But Jeff Saturday, a very smart guy.
Yeah.
In fact, started with us with the Ravens as a college free agent, and then latched on at the Colts. But organization, so forth, a new life in the building, whatever it may be, sometimes it's that spark what you need.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I think when you sit in that seat, it's a long season. You got to reinvent yourself 3-4 times a season. No question about that.
Yes, sir.
You got to reinvent yourself, because there's going to be those peaks and valleys that come up during the season all the time. And they just got over a hurdle. And so that's important. But yeah, it's a difficult thing for the guys in the building, but they got jobs to do too. So they're just trying to win as many games as they can and see let the chips fall where they may.
Awesome, great stuff. Thank you, Coach. I'll turn it over to Brett right now.
So speaking of coaching, I know you were with the Cincinnati Bengals for a long time. I know you have Mike Tomlin, who's still with the Steelers. Brian Flores was recently with the Miami Dolphins. But I really want to know your thoughts on the Rooney Rule. And do you think it really works?
Brian, I think what the Rooney Rule did initially, in the case of Pittsburgh, because when Bill stepped aside, they had Russ Grimm on the staff. Ken Wisenhunt, I believe, was still on the staff. Bruce Arians was on the staff, I want to say. So they had some people in the building that everybody thought, boom, this is going to be the next guy. And through the Rooney Rule, ironically, the Rooney family took a deeper dive, and they found Mike T.
Yeah.
And maybe that wouldn't have happened without that way. Now, having been there, know the Rooneys, love the Rooneys, know color's not an issue for them. But, but it did, in this case, it worked. I think it does work to I think something like this is needed, yes, 100%, to make people take that deeper dive, to look further and see who is available and what are their qualities. Not just what people, what happens with television is they put these names out there, they float these names, they don't have any substance to these names. Who's really coaching? Who's doing this? And they do the popular choice, and the guy that maybe gave them a little tidbit of insight, now they're going to try to float them something. And the guy that's coaching his tail off every day, but got no time but to coach his tail off, he doesn't get that same look that way.
Wow. But speaking of coaching, would you ever like to return to coaching in the NFL? Because Coach Marvin Lewis, come on now. You were a great coach. We miss you. We miss you. You come back. Are you willing to come back?
I miss actual coaching. I really do. I mean, it's tough in my position here when you're not literally allowed to be a coach on the field, a coach in the room that way. And my job is to try to help mentor and help coach the coaches, help mentor these players and give opinion and so forth. But I do miss coaching. That's the essence of it. It's in our blood. It's hard to step away from it. After the 16 seasons in Cincinnati, frankly, when January rolled around mid-January, I was wore out.
Wow.
And I needed just to take a step back. And I did the little television with the AAF and did a run through ESPN and CBS and NFL Network and everything to figure out what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I figured out, Brittany, I miss coaching. And that's the thing. So.
Hey, this is what I'll say. I know we have a decent team in Philadelphia, but will you be willing to help us on the defensive side of the ball? Just saying.
Well, they were frustrated last night. I could see Coach Nick's face, man. Believe me, I've been there.
And then, Coach, my last question for you, because you were a big time coach. I was always a huge fan. Although I wasn't a Bengals fan, I was always a huge fan of yours. What teams, about 2 or 3, do you think are contenders this year?
Well, I literally think that number one, I think the Cowboys. I know y'all don't want to hear it over in Philly, but I think they've got a defensive group. I think they've got a quarterback. They've got a couple of backs. They got to get the passing game in line. I think that's number one. Obviously, Kansas City. I mean, they just keep rolling, and and I like Buffalo. I think Miami's had a great start. Now is the time in the NFL, November, December, and we're almost through November now. And but you gotta now, these 6 weeks are what makes or break you right here, right now. And they get a little cold outside, and if things ain't going right, they start looking at the door, looking for the key. and like we said, you got to reinvent. You got to keep finding a way to keep pushing the buttons, keep finding that spark. But that's probably, what I see. I think the 49ers have done a lot of good things, and the Cardinals out here trying to right their ship. A lot of teams right now. In fact, one of the coaches just was in here. I said, there's going to be some teams that are fit 500 or so right around there. Somebody's going to get hot and make a run. And some of these teams are 6'2", 7'3" right now. They're going to fall the other way. And you just got to be in the right end of those.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And Coach, we'll just ask you one more, then we'll get you out of here. We certainly appreciate your time, but I just wanted to ask about Cincinnati, Coach, because I mean, obviously this is a bottom line business and it's wins and losses. But when you took over in Cincinnati, that was a team that really, I mean, they were known for losing football games, just to keep it as simple as possible. And you put together some really good teams there, competitive, won a lot of football games. And, yes, the Super Bowl didn't come. Maybe the playoff wins didn't stack up like you would have hoped. But do you ever sit back, now that you're away from it a little bit and say, you know what, we did a pretty darn good job in Cincinnati? Do you ever reflect on that at all, Coach?
Well, I don't, look back very much, but I know one thing: we left it better than we found it.
Right, there you go. That's
right. And I was blessed with a lot of great coaches. I was blessed with a lot of fine players, and I think today they're better men than they were when they started. And I think that's the key element. We taught them how to be fathers, how to be teammates, and do all the right, be husbands and so forth. Because I think it's the total package. Everybody thinks these guys are so invincible and everything, but I mean, we're dealing with 21, 22, 23-year-olds when they come in that building.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of growth to be had, and I think there's a lot to it, and we have such a changing society, and we need to have strong men in place to keep help mentor these men as they move forward in life, because we know this football thing doesn't last forever.
Right. That's right. That's right. Well, we appreciate it, Coach.
For sure, Coach.
We thank you so much for just taking a few minutes to spend with us. We certainly appreciate it. This was a thrill for all of us. So
thank you, Coach.
Thanks a
My
lot,
pleasure.
Coach Marvin
Really
Lewis.
David's asked me. I'm glad this worked out.
All right, likewise. Appreciate it,
Thank
Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Anytime.
Thanks, Coach. Thank you.
Okay, you guys take care. Have a good
All
night.
right.
Stay blessed.
All right, guys. That was former NFL head coach Marvin Lewis. Like I said, we were just thrilled to be able to get him on the program. So outstanding stuff there, guys. And we've got a few minutes, guys. So let's go ahead and get ready to kind of wrap the show up. But before we do, I think it comes to that point in the show where we've got to get our 1 minute rants in. There's been
Jay.
Yeah.
Jay, real quick before we get in our rant, because I know we got a few minutes. Can I ask you guys? I've been trying to ask you guys one fun question.
Okay.
Is it okay if I ask you Isaiah real fast?
Yeah. Let's get that in.
So for those who are watching, I don't know if you guys know, maybe new to our show, but Jay and K-Walk, I always like to ask them their days from when they used to play. Jason was a D1 athlete at Penn State. He was a DB, right, Jay?
Yep.
And then K-Walk was a D1 athlete over at Temple. He was a wide receiver, or what, like we call it, one of the first wide redeemers.
For sure.
So sometimes I try to ask them, questions from their playing days. So I actually have two questions, but you get to pick and choose which question you want to answer, or answer both of them. It's up to you. So the first one is your greatest memory about your college head coach. For K-Walk, I looked it up. Your head coach, I believe, was Ron Dickerson. Jay was the Hall of Famer, rest in peace, Joe Paterno. I think I said it right. Or the second question is, what was the feeling like when you first stepped on the field for the first time during your first college game in front of thousands of fans? So you could pick either one, answer both. It's up to you. Jay, I'm gonna come to you first because I've been going to K-Walk first all night.
Yeah, these are great, Britt.
I'm
glad you decided to get this in. I can answer both because I remember them both like it was yesterday. The first time I ever ran out of the tunnel at Beaver Stadium, I can still hear exactly what the crowd sounded like. I mean, it blew me away. I didn't expect it to be that loud, and just the rush of energy. I was a freshman. I didn't even play that day, but I will never forget what it sounded like running out of the tunnel, hearing 100,000 people screaming. You just don't forget it the very first time. And then my greatest memory of Joe Paterno actually happened when I was like 11 years old. He came to my house because he was recruiting my brother Andre. So he came to my house, and I didn't know who Joe Paterno was then. I was into football, but I didn't know Joe Paterno. But he's in my living room, and I'm like 10, 11 years old. I'm just kind of sitting on the step in the background. He's kind of saying hello to everyone when he walks in. Then he sees me sitting on the step. He comes over to me, saying, what's your name, all this stuff. And then he says to me, I'll be back for you someday. And I was like, okay, and then fast forward 7 years later, I come home from a basketball practice, K-Walk, and he's sitting in my living room. He came back for me. So that's my best memory of Coach. That when I was just a young kid, he said he'd be back for me, and things worked out that he ended up coming back and recruiting me to play football at Penn State.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That's amazing. You 8 years old, and then he comes back at the age of 18, and you're like,
it's crazy.
Really? Me? So that's awesome. But K-Walk, what about yourself?
Yeah, Jay, I remember that. I remember you coming back the next day telling us Joe Pop was in your living room. I remember that. For me, as far as the game goes, my first game was Kansas State. It was a night game, a 7:00 game, and I'm coming from junior college, and I'm used to playing against maybe a couple thousand people at the most. Bowl game, maybe 3,000-4,000 people. but it was a night game, 7 o'clock game. I was ramped up. I remember calling Coach Riley, Jay, because I was so nervous. I didn't know how to handle it. Usually I have a pregame ritual. I didn't know what to do because it was such big time. Because when I walked out that, because when I know it's Kansas State. So I'm thinking to myself, I didn't know what to do with myself because of the fact of the matter, the game was late. And usually I'm playing at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and we just get in and get out, do our thing. I walk on that field, man, in Manhattan, Kansas. There's 40,000 people, and it's just blowing on you. I mean, just listening to them. I mean, it's nothing 100,000, but for me, it felt like 100,000 people to me.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, I knew the playbook back and forth on the back of my hand. But when they called that first play to me, I almost forgot what to do. I almost forgot to do because I was in awe. I wind up, catching the ball, making a decent play. But when I first hit and you hear that crowd, cheering against you and booing you and things of that nature, I'm like, okay, I'm here. I'm finally here. So, I settled down there. As far as the best memory with Coach Dickerson, there's two actually. The one was when I because I wasn't supposed to go to Temple. I committed to West Virginia with Don Nealon. I was ready to go. I committed right there on the spot. I took my visits. I said, I'm not taking any more visits. This is where I want to be. They convinced me to go to Temple. I canceled my visit to Temple. They convinced me to go back. I go back. I sit down with Coach Dickerson. Coach Dickerson, sat down, looked me right in the eye, told me everything that I wanted to hear. It helped that I we lived like 20 minutes at the time, Jay, from Temple. Even though we lived in South Jersey, it was like right over the bridge for us, to be honest with you. So that was a selling point there. And I remember my first senior year, I got hurt. I broke my collarbone, and I was the first game of the season, for the fourth play of the game. And I didn't want, usually when you get hurt, you just stay back. You don't travel with the team or anything like that. I didn't want to be a part of that. I didn't want to be that guy that was put on the shelf. And so I remember going into his office, Coach Dickerson's office, and I remember asking him, Coach, listen, I know I'm not playing. I know this is not the usual. This is not the norm. But can I still travel with the team? Because I feel like there's something, special going to happen here. And he looked me in my eye just like he did when he first recruited me and said, yes, Kevin, you can do that. If you're willing to do that, I'm willing to have you travel with us. And so he let me be a part of the team in that aspect. So that's one of the best memories for me, just to still be a part of the team, even though I was not able to play at all. So great stuff there, Jay and Britt. Excellent questions for sure.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love it. But K-Walk, can you fix Temple now, please? Just fix them. Just do something.
Listen, there was no fixing that. Hey, they're a lot. And just like Coach Lewis said, hey, they're better off now than when they found it. Better than when he found it. So they're better off now than they was when I was there.
All right, Jay, I'm gonna throw it back to you now.
No, that was good stuff. I don't know that we can do anything better than that tonight. So I don't know. Do you guys want to do a rant? Or what do you guys want to do?
I don't know if you want to drop the mic on that one, Jay.
Yeah, that was so good, Britt. I feel like
how about we won't do our rant tonight, right. But we all got a balling. We got to
we gotta do who's balling. But I don't want to spoil such a nice sentimental moment with some off the hinge rants. So I think that was perfect, Britt. That was a great question. But sure. Let's do our who's balling segment every week, guys. We want to shout out a player, a team, whatever, someone who's just been absolutely balling. We want to make sure they get their recognition. We call it our Who's Balling segment. Brittany Jones, I will start with you. Who you got this week? Who's balling?
I got to go first this time?
You got to go first.
I was torn between three players from three different teams, between two different leagues. I was really torn. So if you guys don't say one of the three, then I'm going to do an honorable mention after we're done.
Okay.
But first, I got to stay home since nobody said it. I got to stay home. We've been struggling early on this season, so we need something. But Joel Embiid has been balling. He had 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, and 7 blocks in only 37 minutes of play, and a 105-98 Sixers victory over the Utah Jazz. He showed up and he showed the heck out, and he told everybody, move out the way because I'm taking over this game, and that's what he did. Joel Embiid was balling.
Yeah, that's a great call. That's a great call. I thought for a minute you might steal mine, so I was nervous because I only have one ready to go. But I'm going to women's college basketball. I don't know if you guys watched UConn and Texas last night, a matchup between two top 10 teams. AZ Fudd, sophomore guard for UConn, dropped 32 last night on Texas. She absolutely controlled the entire game in the second half. She's averaging 29 points so far this season. Only a couple games, so small sample size, but she's been absolutely balling. K-Walk, what you got, man?
Yeah, this was actually going to be my rant, but it was actually a good rant. So I'm gonna turn it into who's balling, and that's the Washington Commanders. Last night they beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
They sure did.
You got jokes. Jay. Remember who you just lost to? Let me mention it up. Aaron Rodgers with no receivers.
Oh Lord, she's tight.
All right.
Oh, that's a rant right there. That was a silly rant.
Trying to end it nice now.
And so right now the 1972 Miami Dolphins are still going to be the only undefeated team to go through the go undefeated. We want more. For sure. And also, they did an excellent job. They did a serviceable job on offense. 330 yards total yards, 178 yards passing, 152 yards rushing. That's a balanced attack right there for those guys. But what's more impressive about them is what they did on the defensive side of the ball. Is that they held. I guess you can give some love to the offense for this, but the Eagles only ran 47 total plays and they had under 100 yards rushing. So hats off to the Commanders. Ron Rivera, emotional after the game, and also shout out to the defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio as well for devising a great game plan, and not only devising it but executing as well. So my the Washington Commanders right now are balling.
Amen, brother. Amen.
It's funny how you say, wait. It's funny how y'all say the Cowboys lost, but somehow the Commanders just beat the brakes off the Eagles.
No. I said no. I did not
right?
say that. I said no. I said that the Eagles lost that game too because they got away from where they were. But at the same time, the Commanders took advantage.
Got to give Commanders
remember, Jay.
Britt, that was K-Walk's segment. I didn't say a word.
But you got your little sidelines to be a temporary Cowgirl fan. Remember, you third in the division, and every year, what the Cowboys do for the last 26 years, they collapse. So you're on the verge of collapsing. So keep coming at me.
Britt, why are you coming for me? That was K-Walk's who's balling.
That's because K-Walk don't really keep this. All right, I gotta give him credit. The Commanders did their thing. I have to give him credit. But you got your little slide remarks on the side. I see how you be doing. You think you slick. Man. Remember, you got the Vikings this weekend.
I know. I'm nervous. This could be back-to-back losses. I'm worried.
I mean, I don't care who wins and who loses this game. I'm hoping the Vikings lose. So but
honestly, y'all got to be concerned about Jeff Saturday and them Colts. Don't sleep. He got them boys balling.
He got them balling after one game.
Any given Sunday, guys. Any given Sunday. We're not coming at any team. It's any given Sunday. They did. Hey, they beat the Chiefs, so you never know. They beat the Chiefs. You never know. Just like the Vikings beat the Bills. So like Commanders beat us. You just never. You never know. The Eagles beat the Cowboys. But you never know. No, I'm just kidding. All right. But no, my honorable mention, because we're never going to end this show with us. My honorable mention, I had to give him I have to give him credit because we've been dogging him out on this show for the last couple. Well, the only show's been on not on that long, but we've been dogging him out on our station, I guess you could say, our network for the last couple of years, and that's Anthony Davis. This dude, he finally showed up and he finally showed out. He had 37 points, 18 rebounds, and 2 assists, and a 116-103 Lakers victory over, unfortunately, Jay's team, the New Jersey Nets. But I'm sorry, the Brooklyn Nets. Lord, I forgot where they're located. They somewhere out there. But he finally showed up and finally showed out without LeBron. which is big time. So I got to give him honorable mention because of that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since you're doing that, Britt, can I give an honorable mention to the Giants, the New York Football Giants? Let me give a shout out to them. They're 7-2 right now. They're right one game behind your Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to make some noise this season.
One game ahead of his Cowboys.
Okay. Well, yeah. But still, wherever they're at, and not only that, they helped me win some serious money this past Sunday too. Not to mention that, but so shout out to the Giants and do what they're doing right now. They got the Lions this week. A lot of people are overlooking them, kind of like where the Vikings have been overlooked. So shout out to the New York Football Giants for sure.
Yeah, good stuff there. And can I just say something for the record?
No,
and then we're going to wrap this up. I got to put something on the record, Britt, because let me talk to my brother K Walk for a minute.
You done came at me all night.
Did you see Britt get on me for making little pop shots, right? She said I was trying to make these little sneaky one-liners, right? And then she turns around and says, Jay's Brooklyn. Britt, you just did the same thing to me that you didn't want me to do. Man.
You're right, my bad. Look, okay, how about this? I got you. Jay, because what is it, this side right here? Because this team ain't it right now. Out of all the teams in Philadelphia, this team needs some work. This Sixers right here. I love them dearly. Y'all know I'm a basketball person first, but I'm starting to question it. I got a lot of questions. So does that make you feel a little bit better?
That does make me feel better.
Right.
That makes me feel better.
Right.
I mean, y'all got. I will say this though, y'all got Ben Simmons as the headache. We don't have him no more, so I'm happy about that.
You couldn't just let it end nicely, could you? You couldn't just let it end nicely. You had to throw another jab in there. All right,
it's all love. It's all love.
Let's get out of here, guys. Let's wrap this up. K-Walk, man, it's Tuesday, but what are you looking forward to this week? And let the people know where they can find you, man, so they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, on Instagram, guys, I'm Kevin.Walker142 on Instagram, TikTok. On TikTok, I actually don't follow me. I don't post anything. I just watch. But on Twitter at KevinWalker142 and on Facebook, Kevin Walker. What I'm looking for this week, guys, is just we got the Thursday night game. I think it's the Packers and who else is there? I forget who it is, but it's going to be a good one. It's Thursday night, so it's football. And then we got the basketball is starting to heat up, if you will. Great game last night between the Miami Heat and the Suns as well. So looking forward to that. Some good football on college football games this week as well. My Florida Gators are bowl eligible. They got Vanderbilt this week. Jay, I know you're believe you got Rutgers this week.
Yeah.
Penn State has Rutgers this week.
Yep. So
looking for that. And just watching sports, guys. Just watching sports and looking forward to some great entertainment for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, K-Walk. The college football season, we're down to the last couple weeks. Usually some upsets that are unexpected. So I'm kind of watching to see if any of these top teams fall to someone that they're not supposed to lose to. And you guys, of course, can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Jason Talk Sports.
Oh, I'm next. You didn't say my name. I'm sorry. I was waiting for you to say your name. No. For me, I'm going to finish watching this. I think it's Memphis versus the New Orleans Pelicans. It's 39-37 games. Actually, a good game. Pelicans are up right now. Football this weekend. The Eagles team, they got to redeem themselves, hopefully. Like you said, it's just Saturday. Jonathan Taylor, we'll see what happens. But no, look forward to football all weekend. My Ohio State, I think they're off this week. But their next game is big.
Yeah.
They go against Michigan. Whew, that's going to be a big one. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But you guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Brittany Monique. I'm also on Facebook, Brittany Jones. Please make sure you subscribe to our channel, The Sideline Speaks. Please share, comment, click those notification bells. We really would appreciate your support. And I really want to thank Coach Marvin Lewis for coming on and being our guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Britt. Yeah, guys, if you come across this video, do us a favor, hit that like button, even leave a comment. All those little things help keep the video going, and it really helps the algorithm. So if you guys could do that for us, that would be great. Absolutely special thanks to Coach Marvin Lewis for taking a little bit of time to join us tonight. That was fantastic. And we'll be back, guys, next week. 7 p.m. We'll be live right here on the Sideline Speaks. We thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week.